Welcome back to the Today with Tally podcast. Welcome back to the Today with Tally podcast, folks. We have a massive treat for you today, unlike any other treat we've ever had on this 228th episode, folks. Will Chesney, a U.S. Navy SEAL, somebody who took part of Operation Neptune Spear and was part of the elimination of Osama bin Laden. But first,
hello, friends, and welcome to another exciting episode of Today with Tally. The mission and goal of this podcast is to bring an engaging conversation that will add value to the lives of everyday people. We will inspire, encourage, educate, and tell the stories of America's finest men and women in an effort to motivate you to live your life to its fullest potential. Be sure to follow us on social media and search Today with Tally. Be sure to subscribe, follow, and share the program as well. Ladies and gentlemen, your host of the evening, Mr. Brian Tally.
folks, it's right here. No Ordinary Dog by U.S. Navy SEAL Will Chesney. Before I bring him out, I just want to read a quick little paragraph here and tell you a little bit about the man you're getting ready to meet. As a young boy in the small town of Lumberton, Texas, Will Chesney had one goal: to become a Navy SEAL. Despite not being an athlete or an outdoorsman, he demonstrated a resilience and a resolve that got him through the intense physical training regimen of combat conditioning and survival skills required to become one of America's most elite soldiers as a SEAL team operator. Folks, the rest is history, as he would go on May 1st, 2011, Operation Neptune Spear, and would be a part of the elimination of Osama bin Laden, folks. And I have goosebumps right now, as you can see right there, folks. And with that, we are honored and privileged to be joined by Will Chesney himself. Sir, how are you?
Doing great. How are you?
I'm better now that I have you here.
Yeah, I love it when I give you goosebumps.
I tell you what, your book has given. I mean, we've known each other a couple of years now. I consider you a brother of mine. You are sincere. You are genuine. We've been at some different functions together. What you see is what you get in Will Chesney. You are one hell of an American patriot and one hell of an American hero. And again, the honor and the privilege is all mine to be sitting with you here today, because I know the value that you're going to add today to this podcast and to all of our listeners out there is going to be worth its weight in gold. And you never know what type of situation certain men and women may find themselves in, or just a civilian that's looking for a good story. You are going to deliver on that today. There's no doubt. In my military.
I hope so, man. I feel the same way about you. I'm really glad we got to meet. Thanks to good old Don McCoy. Shout out, Don. Thanks, man. But yeah, it's an honor to be on here.
He's running for mayor.
Mm-hmm. As he should.
Katie Fulcher, Don McCoy.
That's right.
Yep, he runs the best chamber of commerce in the United States of America. Don McCoy, we love you, buddy.
Yeah, that's right.
Don for mayor. So now he's got a share of this. Oh, don't you love marketing 101? Now the Katie Fulcher Chamber of Commerce is going to talk about this show, and they're going to share it on all their platforms. And now everyone's going to know about Will Chesney.
That's right.
They already do.
They already do.
So, man, look, small town East Texas boy, right?
Oh, yeah. Grew up in the trailer park. It was a nice trailer park, but it was a trailer park.
Trailer park kid. Man, what was life like growing up in the trailer park in East Texas?
It wasn't bad. A good family. It just, I don't keep in touch with too many people from back home. I grew up with I think I was just joining the Navy when meth was starting to come around real bad, or crack. I don't know. Something was bad. There wasn't a whole lot to do. Go to the mall, play basketball. There were sports and stuff like that. I just, I don't know. I just had to get out of there. That's why I joined the Navy.
How old are you, Will, when you said, you know what, I want to join the military, and additionally, I want to become a Navy SEAL?
It was definitely early high school, maybe even middle school, when I knew I wanted to serve. I can't remember exactly when I decided I wanted to join the Navy for sure and be a SEAL. I've always loved the water. You know, we didn't have a pool in the trailer park, but I love being in the water. So I wasn't a very efficient swimmer, but I was real comfortable in the water. And just being SEAL, I heard SEAL training was some of the hardest military training in the world. I was like, all right, well, let's try that out. It sounds fun. Not the training, but the stuff that they do after training.
Sure. Sure. Now, what was the selection process like? So you're in high school, of course, small East Texas town in Lumberton. I mean, did you have a local recruiter there?
Yeah, there's one in Beaumont. Yep.
And so you walk in like every other kid does. I want to become a Navy SEAL.
Like every other kid. Sure you do. Okay, yeah. So I had actually had a female recruiter. She was pretty cool. Had a couple of issues. So if you're thinking about joining the Navy, that whole never trust your recruiter thing it's a real thing. There are recruiters out there that I'm sure will lie to you. I don't think she had any ill intentions, but they're just there to get numbers. To become a SEAL, you used to have to have a certain A school. So that's like a school that you have to go to. Like if I were to get kicked out of BUDS and not make it through SEAL training, I had to have a job in the Navy, and that would be whatever school that I went to. It was called an A school. So there was only a certain amount of schools that you could choose from. So there was a little hiccup. I chose IT school. I can't even remember. Information technology. I don't even know what IT school, it qualified me to go to SEAL training, but she'd also convinced me to sign up for submarines. I was like, okay, there was a little bit more of a longer schooling, and I was like, that's fine. I got a $5,000 bonus. And I used to be pretty smart. At least I think I was. I was like, cool, I'll go knock out this school. Maybe I'll get to learn something, and I'll make a quick bonus. And I show up, and I can't remember at what point in boot camp, but I remember a chief coming up to me, a Navy chief. And there's a lot of things that I forget with the whole TBI, but I'll never forget him walking up to me, approaching me, and saying that you're not going to BUDS because you do not qualify because submarines is in your contract. And it's like a soul crushing moment where I'm like, oh no. I don't remember what I said to him after that. Somehow I convinced him to change my rating. So I went from IT to machinist mate MM, and I lost my bonus. I lost the submarine contract, but I didn't care about any of that stuff. Somehow I was able to convince him to let me change my rating to machinist mate. It was, I wish I could go back and be a fly on the wall and hear what I said to him. Well, he was a submariner himself. And like you said, how many kids go into the recruiting station or show up to boot camp? There's an 80% attrition rate, right, for BUDS. So how many kids is he seeing come through? Like, sure, I'm going to become a Navy SEAL. And he saw that I had a really good school, a good bonus, and a chance to go on submarines. And so in his mind, he's like, this kid's just going to go to BUDS and quit. 80% do. So he was trying to look out for me, but I was somehow able to convince him, like, no, bro, you can send me to BUDS or you can send me home. Like, I'm sure I didn't put it so politely, but somehow I was able to convince him. And I don't want to do anything else.
You're like, it's BUDS or it's back to the trailer park.
I'm going to BUDS, period. Like, I don't know, like that. I'm not going back to the trailer park either.
Yeah, you ain't going back yet. Yeah,
I got out of the trailer
park. I got out of the trailer park. I'm in San Diego right now. I'm going to BUDS. BUDS or bust, right?
That's it, man. Yeah,
so
I was going.
So you show up. What was the training like there? For you, like, was it demanding? Was it challenging? Did it come easy to you? Was it some of the hardest things that you've ever done? Kind of describe and kind of walk us through that training.
It was pretty easy. It was pretty laid back. You wake up whenever you want, 9, 10, they give you go to get a massage. And, it was some of the hardest training. Some of the hardest things I've ever done. Like going through Hell Week, you push your body farther than I probably ever have before. I mean, definitely. I mean, it's 5.5 days of no sleep. And by the end of Hell Week, you're literally walking around trying to not get the clothes to touch your body because everything is rubbed raw, like everything. You wear like kind of tri shorts under your camis to keep your legs from rubbing. And even still, it was chafed, completely raw. Not to be inappropriate, but my buddy's balls swole up to about that big from he got infected. Just the chafing alone. I mean, everybody was walking around. It's 5.5 days. You're up with no sleep, and it's nonstop. We actually had 2 breaks. I forget how long they let us sleep for, an hour or 2, and that was some of the worst part of it because you're up already for 2 to 3 days, and then they let you take a little nap. When they wake you up, or when you start Hell Week, it's called Breakout, and it's chaos, and it's great. It's genius. You're tense on the side of the beach, and you're just waiting. Oh, I'm so nervous. Hell Week is starting. It's a really big deal. They come out with machine guns and grenade simulators. They make it rain. They'll bring in the fire truck to make sure it's raining, and it's chaos. And they tell you to stay with everybody. Like, oh God, of course you don't. Like, you're running around, and they make you just panic and kind of like, you just hear the bell ringing nonstop from people just freaking out. You're up for however long, 2 to 3 days, and it's nonstop. They're pushing your body to its limits. Just surf torture, log PT. You have boats that you run everywhere with on your head. IBS boats, inflatable boats, small. They're not small. They're a couple 100 pounds, and you have to work as a team. And then, like I said, they give you a couple of breaks. So the first or second time, I remember they woke us up nice and quiet that time. So they don't get your adrenaline running. You're already exhausted. You get an hour of sleep after being up for 2 or 3 days. You're sleeping. 2 hours later, they wake you up and they're real nice to you. Like, hey, we get up. It's time to go back. And they tell you to go stand up on the berm, and you stand there and you're all dry. Haven't been dry in days, and you're actually kind of warm. And they make you stand on the berm and wave goodbye to the sun. Maybe even sing a stupid little song. Always playing mind games. And then they make you the sun goes down, they don't scream at you, nice and slowly walk back into the water. And then they ask you to sit down. It was actually the first and maybe even the only time, it had to have been, the whole class didn't listen to the instructor staff. So they go into the water, you're up on the berm, waving goodbye to the sun, watch the sun go down, it gets dark, they make you nice and slowly walk out. And it's called surf torture. You just lay in the surf and you lock arms and you let the waves come over your head, and they have charts like, okay, it's 68 degrees. The first iteration they can stay in for 20 minutes, pull you out, do a little eye check, make sure nobody has hypothermia. Next iteration is, they're very safe. It's very dangerous. The whole thing is very dangerous. So the instructor staff is always go above and beyond for safety, so we don't get anybody seriously hurt or killed. So they go out in the surf, and they say, take seats, and literally nobody moves. Like, nobody. We're dry and warm. We just woke up from a nice nap, and nobody wanted to get back in that cold water. And they got a little mad. Like, they started screaming at us then, like, you better sit down, or it's going to be a lot worse. But yeah, you definitely heard the bell. So there's a bell that we take everywhere in Buds, and all you have to do is just go up and ring the bell 3 times, and you don't have to be there anymore. You can quit at any time. And the bell stayed on the grinder, is what they called it, where you do a lot of your physical evolutions. And also, when you're not on the grinder, you're running on the beach, they put it on the back of a truck, and it's literally there at any time that you want it. And they encourage you, please, if you don't want to be here, please go ring the bell. So you hear the bell ringing quite a bit.
How many times that bell ring when you were there?
I think we started with just under 200 people, 180, 200 people. We had 22 original guys graduate, 44 total. If you get hurt or you don't pass an evolution and you're a decent guy, I mean, it's on the instructor staff they're there to evaluate you the whole time. Like, are you putting out during the evolutions? Are you a team player? Do you have the right mindset? Like, Do you really want to be there? And if you're a decent guy, you've happened to hurt yourself, they'll roll you back into the next class. They'll rehab you. Or if you don't pass certain evolutions, there's timed runs, there's timed swims, there's certain evolutions we have to pass, like life saving. Dive phase, you have to pass certain things with your dive rig. And there's always tests all the way throughout BUD/S. And if you don't pass the test, well, they'll evaluate you. And you only have a certain amount of test times to pass, but they'll roll you back into the next class. So 22 original guys, 44 total, because we had 22 more rollbacks join us.
Incredible. Absolutely incredible. So you graduate and you earn that trident and you find your way into the fleet. What was your first duty station, and what was it like actually starting to put that training to good use?
I went I went straight from BUD/S to SEAL Team 4 in Virginia, and it was great. It was some of the best times of my life. The group of guys, it's probably the closest group of friends that I've made was in BUD/S. I mean, you're going through a lot. I have a lot of friends, going to war with them, obviously. But I don't know, man. We had a really good class. Our BUD/S class was a solid class. So we formed some really tight relationships there. But when we showed up to the SEAL team, it was very challenging going through BUD/S. So once you get to your team, you've made it through. You have some other things that you have to go through, but you're finally at your SEAL team. So that's obviously a really big deal then too. So it was a great feeling, but you're also a new guy. So you just basically keep your mouth shut and just learn. They kind of like get you to stand up in front of everybody and they're like, introduce yourself. And like, oh, well, my name isn't, like, shut the fuck up and sit down kind of thing. Like, nah, just keep your mouth shut and learn. And you're kind of you're in a probation period. Just because you've made it through BUD/S doesn't mean that you're going to stick around and become a SEAL. You still have to prove. They're kind of like, good job, you made it through BUD/S. So have we. Keep your mouth shut and learn. And if you make the cut, then we'll keep you. You have a 6-month probation period. And we'll see if we keep you around. So it was great, man. I wish I could rewind the clock. I'd go back and do it all over again in a heartbeat. Some good times.
So you had to continue to prove yourself to your fellow SEALs until finally one day they said, or that just kind of wore off and you became a full-blooded SEAL?
Yeah, once you prove that you deserve to be there, then you're basically, they get you ready for deployment. So I say 6 months, but it's the average. You just show up and they get a feel for you, your personality, like your work ethic. Like, are you ready to go overseas and deploy with us? And like, am I going to put my life in your hands? So when you show up, you're a new guy, shut your mouth, take out the trash, and you just absorb as much information as you possibly can. And you usually have a mentor. You find somebody that you click with. Maybe it's just a buddy, or he's under a department. Like, I really like skydiving or whatever, breaching. Somebody that's a breacher, maybe you'll just be under his wing and he'll mentor you. But it's basically before the deployment. So say we're leaving in 3 months. Okay, well, you just have to prove yourself within these 3 months. And if you don't make the cut, then sorry, man, this job isn't for everybody. You might be asked to leave and turn in your trident. You made it through BUD/S. That's a great accomplishment. Very proud of you. That doesn't mean that you deserve to be on a SEAL team. You've proven to us that you are somewhat smart. You can handle stressful situations and you're hard. Like, you can take pain and you can work together as a team. You have to work together as a team. The cadre will see that if you don't. But can you actually go to war with the SEAL platoon and be operational? So you're under a probation period. So I'd say we're doing it 3 months. Okay. They evaluate you, you go on deployment, and you're still proving yourself. But over, a certain amount of time, you prove yourself. You have to take a little test, and they'll have a party. And they actually take your trident from you, and they hold on to it. And then once you take your test. You've been around for a minute. You pass the test. They'll give you your bird back, and you're officially part of the team. So just because you make it through buds doesn't mean you're going to be a SEAL. You can technically be a SEAL on paper, but it doesn't mean you're going to go overseas and be a warfighter. It never stops. That just means you're able to deploy that time. No matter at any point in your career, you could be asked to leave as well.
Once you got to the fleet and you proved yourself additionally to your fellow SEALs, how long was it until you actually went on your first mission as a group as SEAL Team 4?
You're testing me. You have a TBI. Why are you throwing all these hard questions at me? Come on, bro. Man.
So it's okay if you don't remember. It's totally cool.
I really don't remember. I want to say I had enough time. It wasn't a quick turnaround. Like we didn't show up and leave. I had time to do what we call a workup, where you go on trips, mobility trip, land warfare. Sorry, that's the dog in the background. So I had time to do a full workup. I honestly can't remember how long it was.
Let's go to Operation Neptune Spear that everybody in the world knows about. It was the elimination, if you will, of Osama bin Laden. Now, May 1st, May 2nd, 2011 is when that all happened. Now, what was the workup prior to you being selected, if you will, and your team being selected to go in there? Instantly, was it a couple of you on this information and what type of intel that they had on where Osama bin Laden was at?
There's too many questions to ask. We had just returned back from deployment. So we have been deployed for 4 or 5 months, maybe. We were actually deployed to Jalalabad, and that's where we went back to. It was to Jalalabad to fly into Pakistan. Because obviously they wanted to keep it pretty quiet and low key, so that's why our squadron was chosen. Pretty much, everybody's the same. Everybody there, you have to prove yourself to get to development group as well. You have to go through, it's like buds all over again, except it's a buds for SEALs. They know you're not going to quit. You've already been through buds, but you have to perform. Same, they can't really shoot at you, but they need to make it stressful and see how you perform under a very high level of stress. So basically it's another buds for SEALs. I'd rather go through buds again. It was not fun. It was very, I don't know how I made it. It was very stressful. It was a lot. But, so all the squadrons, once you make it through that, you go to a squadron. We're all interchangeable. Since we just returned back from that deployment, they wanted to keep what we were doing low key. We were supposed to be, usually when you return home from deployment, you'll have a little bit of time off and you start going through some personal development schools. So instead of us taking our time off or going to these schools, at first we were told some random stuff. I forget exactly what they said, but it was kind of weird. It's like, oh, this is different. So the whole thing was, at the time, I was actually in a school with one of my best friends. His name was Nick Check. He died overseas in Afghanistan on a hostage rescue mission. And I was in a free fall jump master school with him. And it was in a little small town in Arizona. And it wasn't going to be the funnest school ever. And like I said, it was a pretty small town. So not the best school. I wasn't super excited to be there. I had to do it to further my career. It was not a bad school to have. It just wasn't going in riding dirt bikes somewhere or something, skydiving. But luckily Nick was there, and people from all other branches of the military as well. You know, I had to get to school, but at least my best friend was there with me. So that made it cool. That made everything all better. I was actually happy to be there. It was just me and him, and we were going to have a blast. He was such a good person. He was, yeah. Anyways, get a phone call from my boss. He's like, hey, we have something going on. Pack up your stuff. We have a plane book. We have a flight booked for you, whatever, a few hours from now. Come back to the team, and we'll explain to you what's going on. And as I said, go grab Cairo and come into the team room. We'll tell you what's going on. So I go back to the classroom, and I was like, hey, Nick, we're getting called back. And he looked at me and he goes, no. Like, that was really weird. Because Nick, I'm not just saying this because he was my friend and he passed away. It's like, he was such a good person. I used to question, like, are you really my friend? Like, you were such an amazing human being that, like, I feel like one day you're just going to surprise me and say, like, this was a joke the whole time. I really hate you because you're a dork. He was such a good human, man. So when he was like, no, I'm not going, I was like, man, you're such a better operator than me. Like, they wouldn't be recalling me and not you. He's awesome. He's Nick. Like, everybody loves Nick. He doesn't ever mess up. So that was from the very, very beginning. It was just really weird ever since he said that to me. But it was pretty funny because I was like, well, sucks for you, bro. You're stuck here in the middle of nowhere, Arizona, by yourself. So I was like, it was actually pretty funny. He told the whole class the next day, they're like, hey, where'd your other SEAL friend go? We were the only 2 SEALs in the class. I go, where'd your SEAL friend go? He told everybody I quit. Like, thanks, buddy. And then I show back up to the team and grab the dog, and it wasn't the whole team. There was only a certain amount of, there's Cairo.
And there's the dog he's talking about, folks. Cairo right there.
Cairo. There's only a certain amount of people that could go. There's only a certain amount of room on the helicopters. So when I walked into the team room, it wasn't like everybody was part of it. We had to keep it quiet from there too. It was just weird. Like, once you're in the team room, you're in the team room. Everybody, it's like, it's the team room. It's my home. It's basically where I live with all the guys. We're one big family. So that was a little different too. It was just a handful of us instead of the whole team. So they kept it kind of vague at first, said that we were going somewhere. I'm not going to say where, but we went on a couple of trips, and they still didn't tell us for, I can't remember exactly how long. They were saying we were going to do something else. And then all of a sudden, I remember our commanding officer coming up front, and it was like, okay, this is really what's going on. Like, we are going after bin Laden. We think we know where he's at. And I was like, haha, there it is. Like, okay. I was like, everything's been a little off. Like, we're always busy. We're always deploying. Things always happen all over the world. Bad guys everywhere. And this one was just weird from the very beginning. And all of a sudden, I remember him standing up there and saying, like, we're going after, we think we found him. This is who we're going after. I'm like, okay, there it is. Can't remember how long that took, but it wasn't like right off the bat. It was kind of vague in the beginning. And then once we figured that out, or found that out, it was just business as usual. We literally just returned from deployment. Same group of guys, just not as many, pretty much. We're all one team. We all work together. Like, I know every single person. Like, it's my family. I was 20-something years old. I didn't have a family, just my people back in Texas. Like, I lived in the team room. That was my family. So I knew every single person by the back of their head on night vision. Like, I could basically read your mind. I know what you're doing. I know what you're thinking. It's like, we work together so much. And nothing changed. Who we were going after was a little bit different. So our commanding officer told us what was happening. And then the intelligence people stood up there and gave us a brief. And they do their job very well. Like, it's hats off to those people that dedicated their lives to getting the intelligence that we needed to get that job done. It was so good. I mean, I can't overstate this. The brief that they gave us afterwards, it was like, yes, it was so well done. We thought we were going to die. We made sure our wills were filled out and our life insurance policies were maxed out, because we're going into Pakistan, and either the house is going to explode, suicide vest, something's going to blow up, or we're going to get shot down. Like, a good chance we might not be making it back. And it was very clear that we're not just going to waste our time. We're not going to sacrifice our lives for a maybe. I was very fortunate to get to work with some very smart, great leaders, and they don't fuck around. They're very smart. They know how to manipulate their way into getting things done. We're not going to just go sacrifice a bunch of dudes on a maybe. If the intelligence wasn't good enough, we'll figure it out. Like, just because the head shed sometimes tells us to do something, like, well, we got a bunch of smart people in this room. They're going to figure out a workaround. And the intelligence was so good that every single person was like, yeah, we'll go. Even knowing the risk, it was completely worth it. Like, yes, I believe everything that you just said. It was very well done. So hats off to them. After that, it was just normal training. It looked a little different. We did some rehearsals and things like that, but it was just business as usual. We worked together so much that we kind of overtrained a little bit. You don't want to overthink things too much. We perfected the basics, and we know how to move together as a team to clear structures and move around as a team together. There's a point where you can overtrain sometimes, and we had it down. Like I said, we just returned home for deployment, where we literally were doing it almost nightly, going out, getting bad guys, going out, getting bad guys. And This was another regular night. Just who we were going after was bin Laden.
Yeah.
And we might get shot down on the way home.
Yeah, it was just, every other night, except for we've got the ace.
I mean, it was very fortunate. Don't get me wrong. I'm very glad, but it was the same business as usual. Made sure we were always prepared. So we went through rehearsals, but that's the same. We're always prepared. So it's very fortunate, man. I went from the trailer park to being surrounded by some of the best people in the world. And I say that all the time, and I mean it from the bottom of my heart.
Amazing. So what was that day like? Like you said, a lot of it is business as usual, but you were getting ready to do a very high profile takedown. And when you guys woke up that morning, did you know that it was going to be happening later that day? Or was this something that they don't really tell you a lot until you're in the bird and you're heading to the actual location of the mission?
It really was business as usual. I was on the same couch in the same dog hut, sleeping in the same spot I was just a month or two before, whatever, prior. It's like literally I was just back on that same deployment. And then all of a sudden it's kind of like, you're waiting for the call. And then it was like, yes, you got the green light. We're going tonight. Like, okay, cool. And then
you grab your gear and you're gone.
Same thing as always.
Yep.
Just it was a little bit longer of a flight, and we're actually used to pretty long flights sometimes too. Just the target was different, right?
You arrive at the target. Describe how you got out of that helicopter. I don't know if you guys fast roped in, if you landed. Describe when you made entry into where the house that bin Laden was staying in.
So for us, we landed outside of the compound walls. So my job with the dog was to do sweeps of the perimeter. Me and one of our snipers, the swim buddy. So we're just going to do a couple of loops around the perimeter, letting Cairo use his nose. The explosives were big overseas, SFS. We've been exposed to 2 HBIEDs where the whole house was rigged to explode those aren't fun. So we see plenty of explosives. So I was just watching Cairo, letting him use his nose to see any sort of change of behavior. And if he picks up on any odor, I'm like, okay, well, let's see what he's got. And then also maybe there's an escape tunnel. See if he finds like a hole or. So that was our job, to do laps around the perimeter looking for explosives, or just watching him, see if he picks up on anything, and then go check it out. I think it was around our second lap. We look over the side of the wall, and there's a helicopter tail sticking over the side of the wall. And I was like, well, that doesn't look good. Like, somebody has a joke out there saying, look, we've got a helicopter that looks just like ours. We didn't hear anything over the radio, so it was like, there wasn't a fire. We were like hoping everybody was okay, but there wasn't a call saying like, guys are down. So I'm like, okay, that's not good. Then move our way around to the front gate, and then we hear like everybody's good. So our helicopter landed outside for the perimeter sweeps. The second helicopter was supposed to fast rope guys onto the third floor. I guess once the helicopter was over, the helicopter lost lift from the walls. And it's hats off to the TF-160th pilots, the Night Stalkers. Like, oh, those guys are amazing pilots. I'll fly with them anywhere, anytime. And I did. We flew into Pakistan. Like, those guys are outstanding. They soft landed it into, so there was the main part of the compound, and there was another part of the compound that was pretty open for the animals. They lost lift, and that pilot soft landed it right into that open spot. Just happened to get the tail on the wall. But man, that could have been a catastrophic experience, obviously. We've had helicopters go down before, and it's one of the worst things that can happen. So going from a really bad situation to that pilot soft landing that helicopter, it actually worked out to our advantage. So we tried to breach the outside wall, and once we breached the wall, one of the doors that we were trying to get into, it had been bricked off. So like, okay, well, that's a good sign. Sucks for us, but it's a good sign. Like, why is that wall, what is that, fortified? The guys went to make secondary entry into the main gate. Since the guys had soft landed inside, they waited for the helicopter to stop turning, the rotors, jumped out and made their way to the front gate. The guys are getting set up to breach it. They just opened the gate, like, all right, everybody come on in. We're already in. So it made it faster. So catastrophic experience. TF-160th pilots being outstanding. It actually worked out to our advantage. And yeah, guys didn't skip a beat. Mission went off very successfully. It was, give me one second. Sorry. There was some resistance. There were some fighters once guys got onto the first floor, there was a little outbuilding where somebody was engaged as well. Some guys got some shrapnel. Nobody was really hurt very bad, but some guys took some shrapnel through that door, I think, getting in a firefight. There was some resistance. They had to breach some gates on the inside of the compound, or the inside of the first floor. I think all the way up to the second floor, they had to breach gates. When went off successfully.
Now, Will, when you and Cairo initially got out, you performed that sweep. Did you guys find anything that would say, man, this is, we're walking into, a very bad situation here, or did everything turn out fairly clean?
The only weird thing I saw was the helicopter tail sticking over the side of the wall.
Right.
No, he didn't show any change of behavior. We did 2 quick laps, saw that, made our way into the compound. Everybody was good. The call came out eventually. Like, everybody's solid. I brought Cairo into the first floor, and there was glass everywhere for breaching. There was gunfights. There was some resistance on the first floor as well. But my job was my main focus was to find explosives. If he happened, I personally thought there might be kind of like a safe room somewhere. It's been odd. Something's going to blow up. That happens a lot. Or why wouldn't you have a safe room or maybe an escape tunnel? So I figured, like, okay, we're going to look for explosives. And then once the guys are moving through the house, once they need me, they'll call me up. They're like, all right, get Cairo in here. We're going to check out this safe room. So when I started on the first floor, just doing sweeps and trying to keep Cairo into that mode of detection for explosives, just meticulously made my way around the first floor. I had to pick him up and carry him over my shoulder because there was a bunch of glass on the floor. I was carrying him from room to room a little bit. So I was on the second floor and I was doing sweeps, getting ready, pretty close, ready to move up to the third floor. And I see Rob O'Neill. He comes into the room with me as I'm watching Cairo use his nose to do sweeps of the room. Rob walks in. He goes, I think I just shot that motherfucker in the face. I look over at him and I'm like, all right. Like, he's still working. I'm still watching Cairo. I know who he's talking about. He's talking about bin Laden. I was like, well, we still got a job to do. And then not too long after, the call comes over the radio. This is Geronimo. That was the code word for the mission was completed, that he was captured or killed. And as soon as I heard that Geronimo call come over the radio, it was the first time I've ever done this. I stopped and I looked at Rob, and Rob looked at me, and I went over there, and we were pretty close to each other. I gave him a high five. I mean, that was the first, like, you just don't do that stuff. It's never do that. It's still awkward for me to even talk about, but it was like, cool. Like, not that we wanted to die, because I was in my late 20s, early 30s, pretty young. But once that call was made over the radio, it was like I knew the job was done. It's like, at least, even if we get shot down coming home, we know he's dead. Like, it was like, I don't want to die, but at least the mission was accomplished. So, yeah, my first high five on target, I think, ever.
High value target for sure. Geronimo, mission accomplished. When you left that compound, who was responsible for getting bin Laden out of there and then loaded back up on the helo to get out of there?
We did. We had a protocol that we had to follow. So we were responsible for his body until we made it all the way back home.
And then once you got back to the body, did you as a SEAL team have to turn this over to, was it the CIA? Was it like, how do you do that exchange?
Yeah, I don't know who they were. They're just some people that seemed pretty important. I don't know. The people over there that needed to do something with them, I don't know.
Throw them on a ship, maybe?
Yeah, I don't know what they did with them. But yeah, we handed them over. We had some stuff that we picked up, some intelligence, a lot of material that we got out of his house. We handed it all over to the people to do the thing with the stuff. You know what I'm saying? So we turned it over to certain people, and that was it.
I remember one time we had lunch, and it was a great lunch. And we were talking, just about life. And really about, your lake life and all that stuff. And he kind of asked us, like, what was that like, being on that mission, and I wasn't expecting a very long story. I was just expecting oh, well, yeah, it was, quite the experience. But something you said has always resonated with me. You said, I got lucky. Not everybody is going to have an opportunity to do something that I did. Such a high value target, such an amazing mission, that you get called upon to do, and to not just do, but to do it well, and to have everything go right from your intel to your pre-brief, your debrief, and everything in between. And you said, I got lucky. Describe that feeling of being lucky and being a part of something that's just larger than life itself.
The only reason I say it's lucky is it's hard work. Like, I worked my ass off to get there, and I worked my ass off to keep up with the people, with my teammates. Because if you don't keep up, you're asked to leave. And it's not easy. Like, you're keeping up with some of the best people in the world. It's not just like, oh, well, you know, I put in a little bit of hard work. You better put in the work. So I say luck too, but I say that because I was replaceable by many other guys on the team. The only reason I was chosen for that mission was because of Cairo. They needed a dog. We had just got back, like I said, and Cairo was an amazing dog. So that's why I was chosen for that mission. You know, they only had a certain amount of seats. Not everybody's going to get to go. The only reason I was chosen was because of Cairo. Cairo was not replaceable. Well, he was. There was a couple of other dogs that we had on them. I was more easily replaceable than Cairo was, for sure. There's many other hard-hitting shooters, like some pipe-hitting guys on that team. Like, if you can't make it, no big deal. We got plenty of other guys that'll fill in for you. But Cairo, you know, there's a handful of dogs, but we don't have a lot of dogs. So that's why I say lucky. But it was hard work.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah. No, I'm not.
There.
Yeah.
No, I know. It's just like I say lucky all the time, but it's like it's a little bit of both. You know, it's hard work and doing your job, and then getting lucky because it just was pretty lucky.
Yeah. Look, things have got to. You know. Okay. Look, it's like, let's look at a sport, right? Let's look at the NFL, right? You got to put in so much hard work, preseason, off season, preseason, regular season, playoffs. And then if you get lucky enough, you get to go to the Super Bowl. I look at this as the Super Bowl. You've put in all the hard work for years and years and years, and the dedication. You are ready. You know your craft, and you've honed in on it, and you know that skill, and you are an expert at what you do, not only as a Navy SEAL, but as a handler. And when you say lucky, or when I say lucky, it just means that you were in the right place at the right time. Everything had a line for you to go out now and show the world and show your team that you could do it. Like, hey, look, this is the Super Bowl. This is for everything that we've worked for my whole entire life. This is all the, the chafing at, through buds, and all the, the days that we couldn't sleep. And this is all what it boils down to. All the training, everything is going to come down to this night. And that's when you go out there and you got to perform at the highest level that man can perform at. And not only did you do that, but you guys did it extremely well. And you guys are all American heroes for that mission that you carried out. And not just you and your team, but Cairo. Cairo is one of the finest animals, dogs, that has served within the SEAL teams. I mean, Cairo was a SEAL, right? I mean, it's SEAL dog.
Oh yeah, all the dogs are part of the team. They sacrifice their lives for us. I mean, I got the dog that we lost overseas tattooed on my arm. He was supposed to be my dog. We love these dogs. They're part of the team. They're part of the family for sure. And Cairo made my job easy, man. Like, he was such a good dog. He was plug and play. It could have been anybody. He had been around knew the ropes by then. He'd been around. You just drop him on the ground, give him a little bit of direction, and he was such a good dog. He made my life so easy. He's just solid. He listened well. He could engage perfectly, recalled. He just knew how to do his job. So he made my life pretty easy. He wasn't a problem dog.
Can you describe the relationship that you had with Cairo?
He's my best friend. It's man's best friend, man.
Mm-hmm.
It's just like the love that you have for your dogs at home, right? But now there's a lot of training. Well, service dogs get trained, hunting dogs get trained, cadaver dogs. But this is just like I'll never have another dog like that. I'm going to war with the dog, literally going to kill bad people, and this dog is going to save your life. Like, literally never having a relationship. I don't think I'm ever going to go to war with the dog again, right? So it's a very special bond. And Cairo was, like I said, he was a great dog. He said it's like having a switch. Put the vest on, turn the switch on, it's time to go to work, right? He could turn the switch off And when you take the vest off, he could also hang out. He wasn't a pet, right? But he was like everybody on the team could hang out with him because they knew how to respect him and treat him like a loaded weapon, basically. But he was also pretty cool. Some of the dogs, like, you can't just go and you don't mess around with the dog too much, right? Like, you just go up. Like, some of the dogs I wouldn't even let out of the kennel at the command. They had a little slot for their food. I'd feed them and close the slot. And it's like, I just know better than that handler. His handler can take him out. And there might be like a certain amount of the guys that can take him out, but certain dogs you don't play with. With Cairo, man, I could take his vest off and let him run around. We had a Christmas party one year. He was part of the Christmas party. Like, not all the dogs that we had on that deployment could be part of the Christmas party because somebody was going to get bit. And during then, it's like Cairo's running around, was petting him, sitting up on the couch with everybody, loving on people, until somebody came out wearing a man dress. It's like, no. It was part of like we were doing skits. So I was like, he is a loaded weapon. He could have bit that guy, but luckily Cairo listened well. And it's like, no, lay down, stay. It's like, yeah, that was a pretty close call. But he could be he could hang out.
Treat every dog as if it were. Treat every dog as if it were loaded.
You treat those dogs like that. Yep. Yeah. I've made mistakes.
Absolutely.
I've made mistakes with them, getting a little too relaxed. And yeah.
Guys, go to willchesney.net. No ordinary dog. Get Will's story, Cairo's story. It's an amazing read. It's an amazing story. Will, how about that? Sign you an autograph copy, endorse it to you, a family member, a friend, a fellow veteran, a veteran supporter, a grandma, a grandpa, a father, whoever it may be. Just go to willchesney.net, get your book, No Ordinary Dog. And I tell you, Will's story is extraordinary. And, I know Cairo changed your life. You learned so much from this animal, man's best friend. But life wasn't very easy for Will. This takedown, and I know that you are a seasoned vet, right? And but even though you're this big, strong, strapping Navy SEAL, we all go through emotional, mental trauma. It could be physical trauma. It could be traumatic brain injuries. Can you describe some of the post-service issues that you have gone through, Will?
Yeah. After we got done with the bin Laden mission, we had a helicopter full of our guys get shot down. It was a huge loss for our community. It wasn't the first time that's happened, but that hit me really hard. It hit everybody really hard. So it's like going from a high note to a catastrophic loss. That really messed a lot of guys up. It hit me hard. My hair fell out, actually. It's alopecia. I didn't know what was going on. Just big clumps of my hair fell out. I was like, I don't know what this is. Go to the docs, and they're like, oh, it's alopecia. It's like, it's hereditary or it's stress-induced. I'm like, well, just lost a bunch of really great guys, and it's kind of, don't have to be that smart to figure it out. Like, cool. That's what it is. My fingernails had fallen out at some point. So it was called Extortion 17. That was a helicopter that got shot down. A little bit after that, lost one of my best friends, Nick Check, on a hostage rescue mission. And the same thing, different spots with my hair. My hair fell out in big clumps, just big round spots. It was actually pretty funny. It was I was doing a comb over. I still had hair at the time. So I'd like comb over, and guys were like in the mustard, like poking my bald spot, like, what is this? I'm like, it's alopecia. And I was like, does anybody else have this? And guys mostly had it in their beard. And so I was like, oh, cool. Like, everybody, not everybody, but a lot of guys had alopecia. I'm like, all right, I'm not the only one. It's like, I feel terrible. I felt terrible because of the loss of my friends, but physically, like I was still able, like I felt to perform. I was like, cool, just shave my head and let's go on deployment. Like, we're good. Who cares if my hair is falling out, if my fingernails are falling out? Like, everything's fine. Then I got blown up in 2012, and that was pretty much the end of the line for me. Between the drinking, the loss of my friends, the drinking on top of that, and then lots of head injuries, but the grenade blast really got me. I got really bad migraines. My hair was falling out, like I said. It wasn't doing so good. I was getting really fat, drinking every night. Like I was basically drinking myself to sleep every single night. I went through every single treatment they could possibly. I had great leadership. They sent me to every single treatment they had, and I just couldn't bounce back. I was blown up in 2012, and in 2015 I was medically retired because I felt either a good friend of mine, Jimmy Hatch, said this: you're either an asset or you're a liability. And I was no longer an asset; I was a liability, and everybody saw it. It was a hard pill to swallow, but I saw it too. And I was medically retired in 2015, and it was a hard transition for me. I didn't stop drinking. I didn't get any skinnier. I was just drinking myself to death. I never stuck a gun in my mouth, but it wasn't. I was just killing myself with alcohol slowly. One of my best friends reached out to me, got me to go to my first brain treatment kind of thing. It was transcranial magnetic stimulation, TMS treatment, through a place called the Brain Treatment Foundation. And the lady that runs that, her name is Kara. She's an amazing person. She goes above and beyond helping people out. It's my first step on my road to recovery. There's other modalities and things that I've tried. Little by little, not one thing's going to work for everybody. Some things are going to work better. Some things aren't going to work at all. I'm really glad my best friend, like I was just secluding back at home. Couldn't hold down a job, drinking myself to death, secluded. And my best friend reached out and he knew what it would take. I didn't want to go anywhere. He said, if you don't go, I'm not going. And I was like, well, all right, you got me, fucker. It worked. Like I went. It was my first step on my road to recovery. And it wasn't an easy road, and still on that path, and ups and downs. But you know how that goes. But life is good. I used to always think, like, man, I wish I would have died after the bin Laden mission and ended on a good note. Like, just ended on a high note. We lost a lot of really good guys after that. And I was like, fuck. Why didn't I just die after the bin Laden mission? Call it good. I no longer think that way, right? So it was a long road to get out of that hole, but I'm glad I'm still here. And I hope people can hear this, and if they're in a dark spot, and it always passes. Surround yourself with good people, and it'll pass. Life is good. Sometimes it just gets a little dark.
Amen. Absolutely. And I sincerely appreciate you making yourself vulnerable. There's folks out there that I've known that you think everything's fine, with them on the outside, but they're hurting tremendously on the inside. And again, being in the special operations community like you were, that doesn't make you immune to any of these emotions that happen, and thoughts, that do happen within that community. And, so many people don't want to come out and talk about it because they look at it as weakness. I mean, like you were describing earlier on in this podcast, all the training and the significance of it and the reasoning for it, and the proving yourself over and over and over and over again. And there's no weakness in this body. We are war fighters. And then you just can't get out one day and say, yeah, I got a problem. It's something that self-isolation is real. And, folks like you and so many other veterans out there and first responders suffer in silence. They drink themselves to death. They take too many pills. They may have that weapon. They may want to get in a car or truck and drive into a wall or create an accident and to try to end it all. But there is a way forward. There is a path forward. What was your healing process like? And I know you're still healing. You're going to be healing for the rest of your life. I mean, you've got a traumatic brain injury. You've been through things that, 99.9999% of the world will never see through the eyes of Will Chesney. What was that healing process like? And describe a day in the life of when you were going through the big part of it, if you will. What had to change? What had to change in Will Chesney for you to start to get 1% better every single day, to live the life that you wanted to live, to live the life that you deserve to live?
Yeah, I don't know, man. It's a hard question. So I am getting short on time. Sorry, just to let you know, this might have to call it after this one, but I can't really put I would say my best friend kind of taking that first step to help me would be that I didn't want to get better, but that was my first step into actually going somewhere and starting a process. There's not one thing I could put my finger on unless you want to talk about. I mean, there's so many modalities out there that some things are going to work and some things aren't. There's some things that I've tried that if you would talk to my 20-year-old self, I lost 70 pounds from fasting alone. I remember hearing one of my great friends telling me about it. He wasn't saying it was intermittent fasting. He was talking about something else. Basically, I don't eat till noon or 1. And I love this guy to death. I respected him so much. And I heard what he was saying, but did I listen? I was like, no. I tried intermittent fasting once I'm back on my road to recovery. I think I dropped like 70 pounds. Well, look at that. And I remember like, oh yeah, he told me about that. It's like, oh man, just trying these different things out. And some of them might sound weird, but luckily I have a community that I can just bounce it off of. Like, you heard of this? Like, yes, this stuff works. I'm like, all right, it's at least worth giving it a shot. Some guys are like, but everybody's different. And there's a lot of different things that you can do out there. There's 3 things that I say is like my diet, diet, get your blood work done to see where all your levels are at, and sleep. I got my blood work done and my sleep is good. 2 out of 3 ain't bad. But that's like my baseline. And everything else is like, what else? I need a training to work out. Obviously move your body for sure. It's in some capacity, whether it's yoga, anything. Go do jujitsu, lift weights, find something fun. Just move your body. Go for a walk with the family, jog. Everything else is just try it out. Like, even if it sounds a little bit weird, I let them stick a needle, a little ganglion block, pretty deep into my neck to numb a bundle of nerves. I let them do that twice. I'm like, that sounds pretty crazy to me these days. I've done a lot of different treatments. Some of them were good. Some of them were great. Some of them didn't really work at all. But just finding a good source to try to, like your podcast, I'm sure you have people on. You pick up a good piece of information and things to try. It's like, well, at least just try it. Like, go take that first step. It's a little by little. It's not like a one quick fix.
Yep.
And be open-minded to certain things that might work and certain things that might not work.
Absolutely. Yep. I agree. You're a good man, Will Chesney. I'm honored to call you a buddy, man, a brother. You're solid, man. I mean, you are the epitome of a U.S. Navy SEAL, and you are the epitome of what a great American is. And folks like you, man, they give us all hope. You are a beacon of hope. You are a leader in the veteran community, and know that a lot of people look up to you, for your inspiration and your encouragement, and that will to never quit and to never give up on yourself, despite the stack, the deck that's been stacked against you, and you still just keep moving forward. And so many folks say it, just get up and just get outside, get up and just get outside, and just keep that body moving. Yep.
I say the same thing about you, buddy. And if you haven't read your book, go check out your book, because that's, would never quit. you know what that means. So I'm proud of you for doing what you do and for hitting it hard, man. Just, it's an honor to know you and call you my friend as well, buddy.
I appreciate that sincerely, man. Well, thank you so much for joining us today, Will. I know that this isn't always an easy talk, for you, and I appreciate you, getting out again, telling your story, and we appreciate everything that you have done and continue to do in the military and veteran community. Your service, your sacrifice, your dedication to this great nation is truly admirable.
Same to you, buddy. Thank you.
Yes, sir. Folks, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to the program. It has never been easier to listen to this podcast. We're on Facebook, Spotify, YouTube, Amazon Music, Google Podcasts, iHeartRadio, TikTok, and Twitter. Simply search Today with Tally. Also learn more about me and my personal story, and perhaps even get my new book at BrianTally.com. That's BrianTally.com. Folks, remember to stay inspired, stay encouraged, stay motivated, and always stay in the fight. And go to WillChesney.net. That's WillChesney.net. And get him to speak at your next event. Get a book. Go to his website. He will personally sign it and send it to you, signed, sealed, delivered. Folks, until next time, for the Today with Tally podcast, this is Brian Tally. Good night. Semper Fi. God bless.
This is the Today with Tally podcast.